Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am Christine Dixon of The Ordinary Sacred, and today's video is going to be about identifying cultural burdens. I'm going to be doing several exercises along with you to help us identify cultural burdens that we may have taken on in different categories or areas. And some of you may know that I've been on sabbatical for the summer, kind of taking a break from the groups that I generally facilitate. My husband and I are going through a lot of transitions. He recently retired. Our youngest and sixth child will be heading to college in less than a month. And so we'll be empty nesters, but we're also selling our nest, our home. We'll be living in a van part-time and living in Ecuador part-time. And so just a lot of changes happening, a lot of work to do. And it's exhausting but freeing, kind of getting rid of all the things we've accumulated over the years. And it's really parallel too to this discussion about cultural burdens, because it's like assessing all the things that we've taken on from our culture and deciding what do we want to keep, what do we want to get rid of. And so in my downtime, I've been creating this new workshop on identifying and releasing cultural burdens using internal family systems. So I'm really excited to offer that. The tentative date, if you want to write it on your calendar, is Friday, August 9th. So it's coming up pretty soon. It'll be 1 to 3 p.m. Central Time. So you can adjust that to your time zone, see if you can attend live. I will also have an additional optional hour, third hour for question and answer and sharing. And it will be recorded. So if you can't make it live, you can watch the recording. And it's just a really valuable topic about releasing cultural burdens, because it applies to every person on the planet. Every single one of us takes on social conditioning, cultural burdens. In order to survive, we need to belong we are social creatures, right? And so we take on a lot of these burdens. It can be difficult to detect because it's like the air we breathe, right? It's like the water we swim in if we were a fish. So I have an exercise that I have put in. This is kind of a preview of the workshop. I've put this exercise to help us essentially ask our parts, our internal family inside. And some of you might think of this as asking your subconscious, right, about what are some of the cultural messages, expectations, and conditions that you have absorbed through your life. So I'm going to share one of the slides from the presentation with you. So this is an exercise on identifying cultural burdens. Now, we're going to do a lot during the workshop. One of the things I'm most excited about actually is, if you're familiar with the beloved IFS teacher, Derek Scott, in one of his last videos, he requested that someone do a collective cultural unburdening of the cultural burden of scarcity. And so at the end of the workshop on August 9th, that's what we'll do. We will do a collective unburdening of scarcity. But we won't have time, I have lots of different little exercises throughout, and we won't have time to do them all extensively or in every category. So I kind of want to practice that with you here if you're watching these videos. So you can see here on the right-hand side some of the different categories that we might get some cultural conditioning and burdening. Family is a big one. And this can be kind of overlapping and relating to legacy burdens as well, right? Our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents can be many generations. And of course, they are affected by their culture. So that's going to be passed down to us. It's going to be the air we breathe since we're born. So family is a big one. Education, religion and or science, government, medicine, and then ideas about money, about gender, sexuality, race, And there's many, many, many more. You can almost name any topic, and you'll likely have some kind of cultural burden around that. And it may be different for you than for the person next to you, right? Everyone's going to have this very unique mosaic, if you will, of cultural burdens that you have accumulated that create kind of the lens through which you see the world, the lens through which you see yourself, the lens through which you see other people, and judge them in good or bad ways. So the exercise that I want to practice today, and then in the next several videos, I'm going to take one of these and go through it. It is called the white room experiment. And in the video today, this is kind of an introduction. I'm going to explain how this works, and then I'm going to tell you what came up for me in the first category of family, some of the things that came up for me, just as an example. And then afterward, you can do it yourself. And I'd love for you to share in the comment section what comes up for you if you want to. Of course, you never have to do anything, I suggest. Okay. All right, I'm opening up to the page where I had done this. And then in the coming videos, I'm actually going to go through each of these and do it in real time. I've already done the family one, so I'm just going to describe what happened for me. So the white room experiment is kind of a type of meditation where you, it's probably best to sit in a comfortable position. So on a chair, it could be on the floor. And, with your back supported, maybe take a deep breath. Just kind of help your body relax. Sometimes I like to imagine that gravity is pulling down on my shoulders and my jaw. That really helps my body relax. And I'm just feeling my body in this space, kind of the temperature of the air, how it feels for my feet to be on the ground, supported. Just being with my body for a moment. It really helps to do this exercise from a place of calm, a place of relaxation. Because what we're going to do is we're going to receive information from our parts and from our subconscious. And so if there's a lot of active parts, we might turn toward them and just acknowledge them and say, I see you, and maybe make an appointment to meet with them later and say, if you're willing, can you let me just listen for a little bit and be receptive? And the next step, if you're feeling relatively calm, is just to imagine that you're sitting in a chair in an empty white room. So everything is white, it's just painted white. There's a white floor, 4 white walls, a white ceiling, and it's very bright and white and empty. And there's a very relaxed feeling, though, in this space. And the empty whiteness kind of helps drop into the subconscious. And then what we're going to do is offer our inner family this topic. And the topic, the first one is family. And so the question we might be posing them is, what were the messages or expectations that you received around family? And then as you're sitting in this chair in the white room, just let your parts show you things. And it might be kind of like they're just objects or images, could be words, sounds, could be anything. But it's just coming like cars going by on a freeway, kind of like moving through your line of sight across the room. And you don't have to make up anything. There's no efforting whatsoever. Even if there's nothing, that's completely fine. Sometimes you need to sit in nothing for a little while. But with the focus of that topic of family, just say, I really want to know, what did you learn about family? And let yourself observe whatever comes into your mind. And if you want, as things are shown to you, you can write them down on a paper if that's helpful, or you might just observe if you have a good memory and write it down afterward. And I'm going to suggest that you, if you're doing this exercise with me, that you pause and take as long as you need to just let your inner family, your subconscious show you anything and everything. There's nothing right or wrong. There's no judgment about any of it. They're just showing you this and this and this and this and that. So go ahead and pause and take as long as you need. And then if you're coming back to this and you have done the exercise, just thank your inner family, thank your subconscious for showing you everything that it did. It's usually very insightful and interesting. Just thank them, and then feel your body in your chair again. You might stretch a little bit, take a breath, and gradually come back into the space, the physical space that you're in. Adjust to the lighting. Again, if you want to pause and you want to write down, if you haven't already, the things that came to you, you can do that. And I'm going to share with you what came to me when I did this exercise. So the first thing was I started receiving these images of my dad going to work, leaving, saying goodbye to my dad, day in and day out, just again and again and again. My dad kind of dressing up, going out the door. And the understanding was he's going to work over and over and over. And then there were images of my mom throughout the house, in the kitchen cooking, cleaning various things, doing yard work, day after day after day after day. So it's kind of like sunrise, sunset, dad goes to work, mom does these things. So it was just giving me this information that my example, what I observed of family, was the man goes to work and the woman stays home and works, essentially, cooks and cleans. So those kind of gender roles, right, were modeled. But again, I'm just receiving what my mind is showing me. It showed me all these different images in the home I was growing up in. Then it started showing me kind of like almost like a cartoon stick figure image of like this nuclear family of the man, the woman, and the 2.5 children. And then this like house with the white picket fence. And it was showing me that like this, and again, this is kind of through images, but I could understand the message. It was, this is the ideal family. This was what was culturally given to me. And then it was trying to show me, it showed me a recent image of me watching the show Modern Family and putting a like an anti-X sign on it, that I grew up with this message that this was the ideal family. No divorce, no same-sex marriage, no abortion, right? Like there were all these no-nos, not that, not that, not that, just this, right? Again, this is the cultural burden, the cultural expectation, ideal that was handed to me. And then I saw an image sitting in church in a pew with my family, all dressed up, as a little girl, my feet dangling. And there was a pastor at the front, and he was saying the words, "Children, obey your parents." Children, obey your parents. He was kind of like saying that emphatically over and over. And then he started saying, wives, submit to your husbands. Wives, submit to your husbands. And so again, this is really a lot of these will overlap. It's overlapping with religion, right? I'm getting these messages about family from religion. And it's this basically this hierarchy, right, that I was handed down. It's God, and then it's the man, the husband, and then the wife, and then the kids. Kids are at the bottom, and the wife must submit to the husband. Now, interestingly, I was talking to my husband about my experience with this, and he was saying it's so interesting because for him personally, he got the message, husbands love your wives. That was emphasized. Husbands love your wives. And he didn't really internalize, oh, my wife's supposed to submit to me, right? It was more, I'm supposed to love my wife. And that was the messaging that he internalized. Now, there are many men, and my first husband would be included, where they did internalize, wives submit to your husbands, right? They would say, you need to submit to me, right? So it can be different messaging that we internalize. It can be different for different genders. It can be the same for different genders. It can be just, what our systems take on. Again, it's this combination of what we hear, what's modeled to us, what we feel will keep us safe, right? And help us belong. And then the last thing that came through was this, again, it's like this impression that my system was trying to show me this message that outsiders are scary. There was definitely this message of stranger danger. Be very afraid of people outside the family. And then also that this message of we're right and they're wrong, kind of us and them. Everything that we do is right, right? So I also saw things like my mom spanking my sister and I with a ping pong paddle, or like things that I've since questioned and been able to say, wait, that was not right, right? But in the setting that I grew up in, there was no questioning of it, because of course there was good intention that whatever we were doing was sanctioned by God, by our religion, and was righteous, right? Whatever we did was good and right. And if anyone outside did something different, it was because they were bad, right? So it just was trying to show me this real separation of those inside and those outside, and those outside were to be feared. So those were the big things. Now this gives me huge trailheads. So as we go through all of these different things, you're going to find a lot of trailheads. Let me go ahead and stop sharing so you can see me. You're going to find a lot of trailheads of things to explore around cultural burdens and likely personal burdens, right? Things you experienced directly. There's often going to be a big combination. And you can ask parts directly. What percentage of this burden is not yours, right? Basically wasn't something that you really experienced, was just handed down to you. And something that I think it's Anne Cinco has people do that I really like. It works for me. Sometimes you can just ask a part what percentage is not yours, and it will give you a number. But another way to physically do it is to draw a circle on your paper and just ask the part, take control of my hand, essentially, direct my hand and color in the percentage of the circle that is not yours. And then just see what happens. And you want to specify what the burden is, right? That you're having them answer about. So in this case, I could take several of these things. This idea of the man goes to work and the woman is at home, right? And so what's interesting is mine, it looks like, I would say about 70% or so it colored in, maybe 60%. And again, a lot of it for me was very personal because I saw it day in and day out. So you could call that also a personal burden. But it was also this expectation that that is the right way because it's cultural and it's something that's passed on from generation to generation. So then I can invite in my ancestors, the selves of my ancestors, even of my mom and her mom, and down the line, to see if they're willing to release this burden and meet any concerns they have, um, and actually do an unburdening. And we're going to do all of this in the workshop on August 9th together, so you can have a real example of it. But this exercise that we're doing in the next several videos is to help you just be open and receive from your parts some of the burdens, to identify what they are, right? So I identified this idea that the man works and the woman doesn't. I identified the fact of this like ideal nuclear family and what it looks like and what it doesn't, and the prejudices involved in that. Now, I have actually unburdened quite a bit of this already. So it's interesting. My parts were just showing me this is what you inherited, though. And I'm far from it now, that I can ask them, are there some things that still need to be unburdened around this? And how burdened are you? The children obey your parents, the wives submit to your husbands, have in the past been really big burdens for me. Again, I've done quite a bit of unburdening around that as well. And then this us versus them, inside is safe, outside is scary. So there's a good 4 or 5 things to really explore there. And I could have spent more time there. There's so many burdens around family. And so this is one way to identify burdens, to seek them out, to ask your parts. You don't have to do this, though. Your parts will show you. They really will show you as you have distress and you push against your edges, as you notice yourself judging other people or feeling distress or shame because you are exhibiting something that's outside the cultural prescription that you received, right? And again, the things that I experienced and I received, particularly from my conservative Christian upbringing, may be very different than what you experience in this exercise. And you may be from a different religion, you may be from a different culture entirely, maybe a different gender. You may have received completely opposite messages. Again, this is just a revealing of, oh, this is what I absorbed. This is what I observed. These are the messages, the experiences. It's self-awareness. It's eye-opening. And you don't necessarily have to do anything about it or fix anything. The awareness of it is huge. So that's the purpose of this exercise. So in the next video, we'll do same exercise again with the topic of education. So again, if you did this example and you want to share your experiences in the comments, or if you have any questions, please feel free to do that in the comments below.